Imagine, just for a second, that the world you're navigating every single day is actually designed to keep you exactly where you are, right in your place. Building wealth, it's not just about crunching numbers on spreadsheets or, pinching pennies. It's literally a high-stakes survival ascent. In this explainer, we're stripping away the illusions. We're diving deep into the raw mechanics of wealth, pulling from over 40 financial masterworks to show you how to break out. The climb out of the system, it starts right now.
So, here's a psychological trap for you. Would you rather have $3 million in cold, hard cash dropped into your lap this very second, or one single, kind of insignificant penny that magically doubles every day for a month? Now, your primitive brain is probably screaming for the millions, right? It craves that immediate, tangible security. But in the ascent to real wealth, trusting those gut instincts, that can actually be fatal.
$10.7 million. Yeah, that is the reality of the penny. If you chose the $3 million up front, you literally just left over $7 million on the table, all because you couldn't see the invisible math working in the background. The book, The Compound Effect, calls this the staggering, almost violent power of compound interest. To actually survive this climb, your entire perception of how money works, it has to be completely shattered.
Which brings us to Chapter 1, Escaping the Mind Trap. See, your true enemy at this stage isn't the economy. It's actually the programmed belief system operating quietly inside your own mind. The book Unscripted perfectly defines this invisible matrix we're all born into. The system doesn't want you wealthy. It wants you compliant. It wants you to be a model citizen. Mediocre, obedient, dependent, entertained, and lifeless. Being comfortable in that script, well, it's just as fatal as being flat broke.
So how do we actually break that programming? It takes 3 pretty ruthless tactics. First, as Think and Grow Rich teaches, you have to burn the ships. Back in 1519, facing a vastly superior enemy, Commander Hernan Cortez ordered his men to literally burn their own boats on the shore. He completely removed their escape plan. It was victory or death, and, well, they won. Second, you've got to abandon the end goal and obsess entirely over the daily process. That's the core takeaway from Atomic Habits. And third, start stacking a mix of skills so completely unique that AI and your competitors find you absolutely impossible to replicate.
All right, Chapter 2, The Mechanics of Wealth.
Once you've conquered your mind, you need tactical weapons. We have to look at the raw mechanics of money. Just 1%. That is a truly chilling statistic from the Little Book of Common Sense Investing. Over a 35-year period, only 1% of mutual funds actually managed to beat the market by just 2%. Seriously, let that sink in for a second. The financial wizards in the fancy suits, the ones charging you massive fees, they almost always lose. Your ultimate weapon here isn't trying to outsmart the system, it's buying the system through broad market index funds. I know, it sounds boring, but boring is what keeps you alive.
But remember, the market isn't just some cold machine. The intelligent investor warns us to personify it, to think of it as Mr. Market. Imagine this wildly irrational, manic character knocking on your front door every single day. On Monday, he's euphoric, offering you a fortune for your assets. But by Tuesday, he's totally depressed, demanding your assets for pennies. True investors survive by utterly ignoring his emotional volatility. You have to be the one dictating the terms, not him.
Moving on to Chapter 3, Changing the Game.
Now we're crossing into level 2 of this ascent, going from $100,000 to $1 million. At this stage, simply selling your time, it's no longer going to cut it to survive. The cash flow quadrant is essentially the master key to your escape. On the left side, the employee and the self-employed, you're just trading hours for dollars. Your earning power is fundamentally capped by the ticking clock. But if you cross over to the right side, the business owner and the investor, you step away from obedience and into power. You start using other people's time and money. And the right side of that quadrant exposes this massive illusion we've all been sold. Absolute income versus relative income. The 4-hour workweek completely shatters the myth of the high earner. Think about a banker making $500,000 a year. Sounds rich, right? But he's grinding 80 hours a week under fluorescent office lights, which actually breaks down to about $120 an hour. Now contrast that with an e-commerce entrepreneur making $40,000 a year, but only working 4 hours a week from a beach somewhere. That's $200 an hour. The supposedly poorer entrepreneur is already living the exact retired life the banker is desperately dreaming of.
Which leads us into Chapter 4, Finding Your Unfair Advantage.
As we climb even higher into business creation, operating without an edge is practically a death sentence. The book 0 to 1 dictates your very first step here. You have to bet on a contrarian truth that everyone else is totally blind to. And once you have it, you must navigate carefully. The blue ocean strategy isn't just empty corporate jargon, it's a visceral survival necessity. If you enter a red ocean filled with fierce competition, you are fighting a bloody zero-sum war. But if you find a blue ocean with zero competition, studies show those rare businesses capture an astonishing 61% of total profits. You've got to find the open water.
Because let's face it, ideas are cheap. Action is literally everything. The lean startup methodology operates like a covert operation plan. Build, measure, learn. You don't retreat to a cave for 3 years to build this quote-unquote perfect product. No, you deploy a minimal version immediately. You measure the real-world reaction and you adapt. It's a rapid, continuous pivot, and honestly, it's the only way to guarantee you don't spend years of your life building something absolutely nobody wants.
Finally, we reach Chapter 5, Building a Lasting Empire.
We are now ascending to the elite summit, $1 million to $10 million and beyond. Raw survival is behind you. Now it's all about systemic power, and at this altitude, dealing with people becomes your greatest liability. Never Split the Difference, which was actually written by a former FBI hostage negotiator, hands us an incredible psychological weapon, tactical empathy. See, humans are emotion-led creatures. We only justify our actions with logic after the fact. By empathizing so deeply with someone's situation, they feel completely heard, which psychologically forces them to cooperate with your vision. To truly lead an empire, you have to bypass the logical brain entirely. Start with Why reveals this concept called the golden circle. Most businesses communicate from the outside in, right? They tell you what they do and then how they do it. But truly powerful leaders pierce straight through to the primitive core. They start with the inner slice, why. They don't demand action, they inspire it by sharing their core belief. But inspiration has to be balanced with cold, systemic security. The 48 Laws of Power exposes a darker, frankly undeniable reality of human nature. Law number 11 is incredibly calculated. Learn to keep people dependent on you. Listen, if you can be easily replaced, you have zero power. True systemic security requires you to be utterly, ruthlessly irreplaceable in your ecosystem. And to ensure that ecosystem never collapses, you have to literally rewrite the rules of business. The standard equation we're all taught is sales minus expenses equals profit, which, let's be real, usually leaves nothing. The profit-first methodology completely reverses this. Sales minus profit equals expenses. You take your survival cut first, forcing the machine to survive on the scraps. Pair that with a hedgehog mentality from good to great, basically ignoring all the outside noise to master one single unshakable niche, and your empire, it becomes bulletproof. So look at how far we've scaled in this explainer. From the mind traps of the unscripted matrix, all the way to the psychological warfare of empire building. The mechanics of wealth are no longer hidden from you. But here's the catch. Knowledge without execution is just entertainment. I'm going to leave you staring right into the reality of your own future. Are you going to remain a compliant passenger in this system, or are you actually ready to burn the ships and build your empire? The choice? Well, the choice is entirely yours.